Okay, so we've all heard of the Black Death, right? The story of rats and fleas, this unstoppable wave of death sweeping across Europe. It's one of history's most terrifying tales. But what if I told you that story is missing a huge piece? A piece that starts with a volcano.
Just to put this into perspective, look at this number, 50%. That's how much of Europe's population was just gone, wiped out in a matter of a few years. It's a number so huge, it's hard to even wrap your head around, and it completely changed the course of human history.
So we know the killer's name, right? It's this nasty bacterium called Yersinia pestis. And between 1348 and 1349, it just tore through the continent. The speed, the lethality, it was absolutely terrifying. And yeah, we've known about the bacteria itself for a long, long time. But that just begs the question, doesn't it? Was there something else going on? A catalyst that created the perfect conditions for this one bacteria to explode into a full-blown, continent-killing nightmare? What really lit the fuse on this disaster? Well, this is where it gets really cool. To find that missing piece, modern science has basically turned into a team of historical detectives. You've got researchers from places like Cambridge University and the Leibniz Institute, and they're not just looking in old books. They're digging into nature's own records to find out what really happened.
Now look, we all know the classic story. The plague starts somewhere in Central Asia, it hitches a ride on fleas, which are on rats, which then hop onto merchant ships and caravans, and boom, it spreads along all the major trade routes. And that's not wrong, but it doesn't really explain the why now or the sheer explosive force of it all.
So, to get to the real answer, scientists had to look somewhere totally different. They went to nature's archives. I'm talking about tree rings and ancient ice cores. By studying these, they can literally look back in time and see what the climate was like almost 700 years ago. And what they found, well, it was dramatic. And this is the clue that changes everything. They looked at tree rings from the Spanish Pyrenees, and they saw this incredibly clear pattern. The summers of 1345, 46, and 47 were just bizarrely cold. This wasn't just a bad summer or two. This was a sudden, major shift in the environment, happening right on the plague's doorstep. Okay, so what on earth could cause temperatures to just plummet like that all across Europe? Well, the evidence points to one of the most powerful and destructive forces on our planet. It's a phenomenon called a climate shock. Basically, it's a sudden, violent change in weather patterns. And the number one suspect for causing one of these? A massive volcanic eruption. Think about it. A volcano blows its top, it shoots millions of tons of ash and gas high into the atmosphere, and that stuff acts like a giant sunshade, blocking the sun's rays and causing the whole planet to cool down fast. And yep, that's exactly what all the evidence points to. Sometime around 1345, somewhere in the world, a monster volcano erupted. It triggered this massive climate shock that sent a deep chill across Europe and unknowingly set the stage for something far, far worse. And here's where all the pieces of the puzzle just click into place. See, the volcano didn't directly cause the plague, but what it did was kick off this insane domino effect, a chain reaction that led straight to one of the worst disasters in human history. Let's walk through it. So you can see the chain reaction right here. First, you get the huge eruption. That causes the sudden cooling. The cold then leads to massive crop failures all over Europe. People are starving. So what do? The big city-states start importing enormous amounts of grain from the Black Sea region. And guess what else was on those grain chips? I mean, try to imagine what it was like back then. You've got these cold, wet summers, year after year. Your crops are failing. Famine isn't just a possibility, it's knocking on the door. Especially for these massive, powerful Italian city-states like Genoa and Venice. Their entire survival was built on these huge trade networks. So naturally, they looked east to the breadbaskets around the Black Sea for a solution. And here is the absolute tragic irony of the whole situation. The very system that was supposed to save them, the global trade routes built for food security to stop people from starving, that system became the perfect superhighway for the plague. They were desperate for grain, and in bringing it in, they unknowingly imported the rats and fleas carrying Yersinia pestis right into their homes. So this is more than just a cool history lesson, right? It's a really stark warning, a case study from 700 years ago that feels eerily familiar, especially when you look at the challenges we're facing in our own interconnected world today. And when you lay it all out, the parallels are honestly kind of chilling. Back then, they had a sudden climate shock from a volcano. Today, We have a slower, but just as disruptive, climate change. They had their growing global trade routes. We have our hyper-globalized world where anything can cross the planet in hours. They face the plague. We're seeing the risk of new pandemics skyrocket. The basic ingredients for that perfect storm, they're still here, just wearing a 21st century disguise. And this isn't just me saying this. Listen to Dr. Ulf Bungten from Cambridge University. He says that in our globalized world, with a changing climate, the chance of animal-borne diseases, what they call zoonotic diseases, emerging and turning into pandemics is only going to increase. I mean, we just lived through that with COVID-19. It makes this history lesson feel incredibly urgent. Which brings us to the big final question, really. The Black Death wasn't just about a bacteria. It was about a complex, deadly dance between the environment, global trade, and biology. It was, in every sense, a perfect storm. History showed us exactly how fragile our complex systems can be when the unexpected happens. So the real question for us today is, are we paying attention?